Welcome back to the dojo, everybody. This is True Talk with TRUMOTION, where a couple of guys talk about how to make the world a better place and hopefully make your day a little bit better in the process. My name is Mark, followed by my co-host Stephen.
Hello.
Let's get things kicked off. Well, we have a very, very special guest in the studio today. Long-time listener, first-time appearance.
I know.
We have one of my favorite human beings on the planet, coming from the fiery I guess it's not fiery in San Diego, but it's warmer in San Diego. I mean, the rest of the state's struggling a little bit right now, but we have the great, the humble, the wonderful Master Danny Hoang. Master Hoang, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I've listened to your podcast many times and over the years, and so it's a great honor to be here in person.
Yes, I've been waiting for this day.
It's an honor to have you.
For quite a while, to be honest with you. Ever since you started listening and like we've talked, and I'm like, gosh, we need to get him on the show. And then finally you came for All-Star Weekend for the first time. So a lot of firsts for you this trip.
Absolutely.
Because normally, we talked about this yesterday. Normally when you come down, it's like literally 48 hours and then it's time to go back to California.
Yeah, so quick in and out.
But no, you're here for 4 days.
Correct.
Wow.
4 or 5 days, and we get the pleasure of hanging out with you for 4 or 5 days. And I know the students all have been just like, oh my gosh, is he going to be here next week? I mean, Ahmed has been just like constantly on Master Hoang, like, oh, thank you. Oh, you're just so cool. Like, when are you going to come back? And yeah, we love Ahmed. Thanks, Ahmed, you jerk. It's not like I teach you. No, I'm just kidding. I would love for Master Hoang to teach here too, but it's a little cold. This morning when I got in my car, it's 26 degrees.
Oh,
pretty cold.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's extreme cold for us. It's usually 70s for us in San Diego.
Yeah, I don't want to hear of it. That's fine.
Maybe in 5 years we'll be at where San Diego's at. We'll be about 80 in the summer. And
Yeah,
70 in the winter.
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, we have warm weather, we have all seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have slightly colder summer and slightly hotter summer like San Diego does.
I'm almost comfortable here. I see people in the grocery stores here in shorts and a t-shirt. So
I've done that.
Oh, yeah. Those
I've done that. Like, unless I'm going to be out in the elements for a long time, like the hoodie's about as much as I'm going to wear.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be outside, that's a different story.
Yes.
So, but real quick, we just want to kind of do a little background with you, so the listeners, and I honestly, I don't even know if I know all these answers too. But let's kind of talk a little bit about your background in training. So, when did you get started, and how did you get started with your training in martial arts?
Wow, that's a loaded question. People always ask me that, and I always tell people I started in my mom's tummy when I started kicking.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that was my first step to introduction to martial arts, right?
That's when you started. That's when you started
it.
training. That is a great answer.
So to be honest, actually, I started much later in my career as a martial artist in my 20s.
Okay.
About 26, 25. So prior to that, I had experience working in the biotech industry. So I studied at UCSD, University of California, San Diego, with a degree in biochemistry.
Okay.
And then I worked in academics and also for industry for about 5 to 7 years. And then after that, during that period of time, I was training as a martial artist as a student. And then my instructor asked if I wanted to take over a school. And no experience. But I said, hey, let's just give it a try.
Yeah.
So a total career change. And that's how I got started.
Wow. Biotech and academic. So were you teaching, or when you say academics, what do you mean?
I was doing research.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was doing research for a professor in the academic field, and then also for the Scripps Research Institute in the Department of Neurobiology. And then after that, I transitioned to biotech companies, right? So that was my introduction to the science world.
So when you said the neuro industry, were you doing like brain research, or?
It was brain research, but at the molecular level, learning about neuroplasticity, programmed cell death, right? How things happen.
Okay.
And doing molecular biology research.
Okay, because my experience with neurologists is, in my opinion, they're all a bunch of idiots. Because anytime, and I know they're not.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're very, very smart. But anytime I dealt with neurologists, I never got answers. And that would always frustrate the living daylights out of me.
Yes.
Because clearly I was having something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this is obviously a brain-related thing.
Yes.
And I'm seeing the brain specialist, and they're like, we don't have any answers for you. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know if I want to hear that or like, well, we'll keep looking. So,
well, at the clinical level, it's hard to identify some of the things, but when you look at the molecular level, you understand why cells die, right? What happens when cells, we call it programmed cell death, right? And also neuroplasticity, why things happen, how does learning and memory occur. So that you can learn.
So you've got a lot of research into like how people remember, how people would probably like process information.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, obviously, I don't know if you know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways because I dealt with this. But things like related to possibly like having seizures, what would possibly cause somebody to have a seizure? Because I think I know why I used to have night seizures.
Yeah.
And we came to learn that it was due to concussions.
Mm-hmm.
So, but why would somebody end up possibly having something like that happen?
That's a great question. I really don't have the answer to that. I
was
really
gonna
never
say,
studied that, and I'm not a physician. We would probably ask Doc Reinhardt to talk about that more in detail. You know, I really don't want to answer something that I
no, and
don't have
I was going to say
in.
I don't know if you would know the answer, but I thought I'd just kind of throw it out there anyways. But when it comes to like memory, like we do something here called brain linking, and tell me if I'm just kind of read bad information. But brain linking, we have people stand on a balance board and then catch something. And the research that I've done is apparently that helps fire their right and left side of their brain at the same time. Is that a thing? Or
it is. Okay. I think the memory is related to the synapses. And so for you to remember something, there has to be a bridge between the synapses.
Okay.
And sometimes if there's not that bridge, you don't really solidify that memory. And so you learn it just for a little bit, but then you forget it, right? So there has to be something that connects the synapses for you to have long-term memory.
Okay, so that's why, like, when you're at school and you hear a lecture and then you leave it, you're like, I don't remember what I just learned.
Yeah. Yep. You haven't incorporated something to that memory. The synapses hasn't made that connection.
So is that why when you teach, you show something, then they physically do something, and then you, like, talk about it? Is that the reasoning behind that, or is that just how you like to teach?
I really believe in that. I prescribe to the notion of learning as a 5-step process. You learn it, you repeat it, you learn the purpose, the application, and it becomes reaction.
Okay.
But what happens is a lot of people like to go from learning it to reaction right away. But you don't learn the other steps in between. And so if you learn the steps in between and commit to it, you'll be able to make it reaction over time. Try not to skip steps.
Yeah, you have a very great ability to teach and then do drills that reaffirm your teaching, and then you tell them why you're doing the teaching, and then they do another drill that teaches them the same thing.
Yeah,
and
a lot of reinforcement.
I'm just like, oh my gosh! Every time I watch you teach, I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. Or like, okay, I didn't think about it that way. That's really cool. And yeah, you have a great ability to get people to practice without realizing they're practicing.
I think I developed that strategy because over time, when I was a student, my instructor just taught me the movements, with not really helping me understand why.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I ever become an instructor, or my mantra was to always give back more than I received.
I love that.
So when I have a student, I always want to give the student more than what I got. And so that's how I became focused on my teaching ability.
That, and you're phenomenal at it, by the way. I mean, I don't think anybody would deny that. Yeah, I agree with you. It's that whole like adage of you always try to make the next generation better.
Absolutely.
And anybody that does not prescribe to that needs to take a good long look in the mirror, because that's our purpose as a society or as just human beings is we're always trying to advance ourselves to the next generation. Like it's that, like here in Utah, we do a lot of camping. So one of the things is like you always leave the campsite better than when you found it.
Yes.
It's same adage. But okay, that's great. So have you only trained and been in San Diego, or have you gone anywhere else?
Yes, my first introduction to the martial arts was with Kempo at 25 years old. As a kid, I always loved martial arts, but my parents never really enrolled me. And so I would go to studios and watch my friends participate.
Oh, okay.
I sat on the sidelines. And I told myself, once I get older and I have the resource, I would enroll. And so one day during lunchtime, I decided I was walking around, and I saw the studio, and I just walked in. And the next day, I completely committed to it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I, for one, am forever grateful that you did that. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
No, I'm kind of in the same way with you. I always kind of dabbled in training as a kid, but I never really got into it.
Yeah.
Until I think I was maybe about 22, 23. Kind of the same thing. And then, one of those things, it's like I've always wanted to do it as a kid. And like I always loved martial arts movies. And now it's like, okay, I have the ability to do this. Like all right, let's do this. Kind of the same thing. Just I drove by a studio on my way home from the gym, and I was like, all right, I'll write down the number. And I remember when I called, the instructors talked so fast, I didn't know what they said, and I thought I dialed the wrong number. And I hung up. Then I called back, and it was the same thing, and I was just like, okay, well, then this is probably, I was like, is this the karate school? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, I couldn't hear a word you said, dude. Like, you need to slow down or something. But, all right. And then you took over a school, and you've been doing it ever since, and you've been doing it at a very high level, too.
Well, thank you. So December of 2024 was my 25th year at the studio.
24.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
So you started in
25th.
99, huh?
Correct. 1999.
Holy cow.
December 1999.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. 25 years.
He goes by fast. I feel like it's only been 10 years, but it's 25 years now.
That's so cool. 25 years. And I bet you probably had a lot of people being like, oh, you're making the wrong choice, or like, what are you doing? Or they just looked and we're just waiting for you to fail. Like, he'll be back. He'll be back.
Know, surprisingly, I had the opposite.
That's really cool to hear.
Yeah. When I told my parents the first time, I sat them down and I said, I want to make a career change. And being in my family, all my brothers had higher degrees. And I thought I was expected to go to medical school or pursue a PhD, but I decided not to. And when I told my dad, he looked at me and he said, just do what you like. Do what you love.
Okay.
And don't be focused on what we want you to do. And I think I cried.
I was going to say, you've got some great parents.
And so I was so surprised. And I had the support of my family, right? Which I thought I would not have.
Yeah.
But they supported that. And, I think that really motivated me even more to become an instructor.
Wow, that's really cool. I kind of had the similar thing. Everybody else besides my parents was like, you're making a dumb move. Or, like, when are you going to get a real job and all that stuff? But, like, I didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like, if you got your parents behind you, man, there's nothing else you can do.
Yes.
So
I really believe that.
That's so cool. That's
such a good message, to be supportive and build that family.
Yes.
So I'm very, very happy to hear that.
Really, another cool thing is the fact that your dad verbally told you, it doesn't matter what I want you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's your life.
Yes.
And sometimes we can get too wrapped up into what we think is best for kids.
Yes.
Sometimes it's true. Most of the time it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, they're their own lives.
Yes.
We just have to try to shepherd them to not get hurt. As long as you're physically not being harmed.
Yeah.
Like, you have the choice and the free will to do whatever you want. And if you're able to survive and, provide for yourself, doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
As long as it's something something that you hold dear. So I think that's that's really cool to hear, to be honest with you. That's phenomenal. But also, if you guys do not know, he does, and hopefully you'll start doing again, but you have a YouTube channel. It's Master Lessons, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Master Lessons, and if you have not looked those up, I highly recommend doing them. They are very quick. 1 minute.
Just 1 minute.
1 minute. Great message videos. They're Monday's motivational minutes. And I remember every Monday I'd log in and be like, all right, what's this week's motivational minute?
Yeah.
And they're really good. So if you guys have not gone on and looked that up, shame on you. You should do that after you hear this, so you can hear some of his messages. And he's got video, so you can see him. We are still working on getting video, but yeah. So if you have not looked him up, make sure you look him up. But yeah, no, we just appreciate you taking the time, because I know you're a very busy guy, and we definitely don't want to make sure that we're doing something valuable with your time, and because I know you give way more than you receive, so thank you. But let's continue on with the show. We've got last week's Liam's facts was how long was Sleeping Beauty sleeping? And the answer to that question is 100 years.
100 years.
Okay.
But now let's move on to this week's Liam's facts. All right, this week's Liam's facts. And if you know the answer, you can tell me after we get off the air. But the idea of zombies can be traced back to what religion?
Oh, wow.
I asked this question last week in group class, so we will actually see from the people in group class who listens. And then I can call them out because nobody answered.
Are behind. They need to catch up.
Well, hurry up with that.
Yeah.
So again, this week's question is, the idea of zombies can be traced back to what religion? That's this week's Liam Facts. Now moving on to our top 5. This week's top 5 is martial arts actors. Now, I do not know if we've done this in the past. We may have. So I'm pretty sure my list will be different, and that is okay. Why? Because it doesn't really matter. So this week's top 5 is top 5 martial arts actors. Stephen, we'll start with you. Who do you got for your top 5?
Oh, wow. Well, obviously, you've got your greats, right? You've got Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon, you've got Jackie Chan, you've got your Drunken Master,
Yeah.
you've got Jet Li,
Okay.
you have Donnie Yen,
Yep.
man, you can't go wrong with that. And then Tony Jaa.
Tony
Some
Jaa, he's
honorable
another good
mentions
one.
are Michael Jai White.
Okay.
You've got your Dolph Lundgren. You've got your Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
You've got Ronda Rousey from the Fast and Furious.
That's right. She is an actor.
Yep. Conor McGregor, now an actor, apparently from Roadhouse.
Yep, he's in Roadhouse.
So quite a few, both from new and old.
Yeah. I honestly forgot about Dolph. He is actually a legit martial artist. He's a smart guy too.
Genius.
Yeah, genius level. All right, Master Hoang, you got your list?
Sure. Let's go with Jackie Chan, of course. Jet Li, Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
I also like, let's see, Michael J. White.
Yep.
He's very awesome. Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
Michelle
about
Yeoh.
her. She was dang good too.
Not Enter the Dragon. Crouching Tiger, Hidden
Crouching
Dragon.
Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Yeah,
Super
she was
Cop.
Great.
Yeah.
So those are my favorites.
Nice. That's a good list. Well, I've got, like the ones you guys have said, like Jackie Chan, Jet Li. Donnie Yen's an honorable mention for me. I got Jean-Claude Van Damme, Keanu Reeves, and Michael Jai White.
Yeah.
So,
Keanu Reeves.
yeah. Yeah, he's one of those sneaky ones that you forget about because he didn't come up in the martial arts genre or acting, but man, with the amount of training he's done for John Wick, you can't deny he's a legit martial artist. So, another interesting one, he's never done any martial arts movies, but the guy that played Al Bundy, what was his name again? Oh, shoot. The guy that played Al Bundy, he's
Yes.
a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, okay.
Like, he's really good, apparently. But yet you never hear about that. So, if I don't know, I can't remember his name. But that guy who played Al Bundy, yeah, he's a pretty good one as well. But that's our top 5. Let us know what you guys think of yours. If we've missed anybody, which obviously we had to have. Yeah, there's so many out there. Like, we'd even mention, like, Ray Park, the guy who played Darth Maul. Right. Scott Atkins, he's pretty good. So I was kind of basing mine off of, like, not their quote-unquote acting ability, but, like, their actual martial arts ability.
Right.
Oh, I was talking about this yesterday. Master D'Alessio, she likes Jason Statham.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's getting all blushy about that. There's also, who else was there?
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris.
Yeah,
you can't forget about Chuck Norris. There's Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of martial art actors out there that just fall through the cracks.
Sumo Hung.
Yes, yeah.
He really never made it into the big time.
No, he never made it mainstream here in the States.
But in Hong Kong.
Oh, he was real big in Hong Kong. Him and Jackie Chan coming up. Apparently, they went to the same, like, opera house.
Yeah, correct.
And that's how they knew each other. So, yeah, if you have not checked out any, like, old Jackie Chan films, oh my gosh, it's funny because people in Hong Kong and Asia, they hate his American films.
Wow.
Like Rush Hour and Shanghai Noon and all that stuff. They can't stand them. But his older stuff was, oh my gosh. I don't know how he's not dead. Like, to be honest with you. Like, he's done so many crazy stunts and gotten hurt. They're just like, oh man, that's wild. But let us know what your top 5 is in the comments or email us, and we'll see if your guys' measures up. So
there we go.
Moving on to our Ask a Sensei. All right, this week's Ask a Sensei is we got some good questions, we got some fun questions, things to think about, all that stuff. But question number 1 is, what is one thing you wish you knew before you started training or got into business? So what's at least one thing you wish you knew? Let's start with the training aspect. Yeah. What's one thing you wish you knew before you started training in the arts?
One thing I wish I knew, probably just the whole, like, the mental aspect of it, that how much more important it is.
Mm-hmm.
How to be able to not only demonstrate, but demonstrate under pressure. I just wasn't really raised that way. So once I got into martial arts, and I was an adult as well when I got into martial arts, it was more pressure intensive, especially during tests.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. What about you, sir? Have you kind of thought, I know you like to think about the answers before you give them, which obviously I appreciate, but
of course. I think one of the great messages that I learned now is that the martial arts is not finite.
Yeah.
When I first started, I thought it was just you get your black belt and that's done and you're the expert. But a true martial artist understands that the martial arts will always give.
Mm-hmm.
But how much do you take and how much do you give back?
Yeah.
And so when you're young, you always think the martial arts has a start and stop. But as I got older or trained more, I understood that I continue to learn from it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not endless. And if you have an instructor that thinks once you get your black belt, that's all you need to know, that's all you need to learn. No, there's so much more to grow and learn after black belt.
Mm-hmm.
So my most important message is that that I wish I knew is that martial arts is not limited. It's continuous growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's probably one thing that I wish I knew is how much you realize you don't know. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things to where the second you feel like, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this, then all of a sudden something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't know anything. Yeah. Like, holy cow. And if you're not prepared for that, the first time you experience that, man, it takes a toll on you. I mean, because again, a lot of us don't think we have egos, and a lot of us now we have our egos in check. But as an adult, anytime you're like, okay, I'm getting the hang of something, and all of a sudden something happens, and you're like, psh, you have no idea what you're talking about. That's a huge blow to not only your ego, but like your confidence. So it's like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I'm feeling, and that really happens at black and up. Everybody always thinks that happens pre-black. No, at pre-black, you're like, you're expected to mess up and not know much and this and that. Then all of a sudden you get your black belt. And like you said, everybody's like, oh, you're the expert now. Yeah. No, you're not. So I remember the first time I got my black belt and I started doing stuff and I started watching other black belts do stuff. I was like, I had the really bad like inferiority complex. I almost felt like I was a phony.
Yeah.
You're like, holy crap. Like, I really do not know what I'm doing. Like this, I suck. Like, are you sure I should be wearing this? And I don't know if I knew that ahead of time, if it would have made it easier, but at least I would have been prepared for it.
Yeah.
So anybody that thinks about starting training, all of those 3 words or advices, I would definitely take to heart, because you're going to run into obstacles and pressure that you never thought you intended to run into or thought you would run into. And if you're prepared for those, it'll be a little bit easier to push through those. I'm not saying you can't if you don't know it, but it's like knowing that, hey, something's going to be scary right around that corner. Doesn't mean you're not going to jump, but at least you're not going to like run away. So, but yeah, that's probably been my biggest thing is you're going to run into times when you're going to feel like an imposter, and know that that's normal. It's normal. You just have to grit your teeth and keep pushing forward, because it's like you've come this far, shouldn't turn back.
Yeah.
It's that whole adage of like a dog walks halfway across the road and its feet get hot and it turns around and walks back.
Yes.
And it's like, well, you just walked the same distance, but now you're in the same spot. Yeah. So keep pushing forward. Now, what's one thing that if anybody's looking at getting into like business, not necessarily the martial arts business, but business for themselves, which we all know that when you run a studio, you are in business for yourself. What's one thing that you wish you would have known ahead of time before you got into it?
I think for me is, instead of having to do everything on your own, right? Seek a mentor. Seek someone who has already done it and are successful and continue to be successful. Not just what they're doing, but what they did. Or not just what they did, but what are they doing as well. I think that would really help as you start a business, an entrepreneur, or being an entrepreneur. I think those are very, very key elements of success. To find someone to help you along the way. There's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right? Find people around you that will help you find the process and be successful. It's harder to do it on your own. Most of us can try, and I learned that the hard way. I always thought no one can do it as good as me.
Yeah.
But if someone can do it 80% as well as I, then I'll let them do it. And one of the biggest lessons was I never asked for help. But once I did, I was amazed to see how much people were willing to help.
Yeah.
I just never wanted to ask.
Yeah.
And by them helping, it allowed me to do even more things. So that's one of the big lessons that I learned. You don't have to do everything by yourself.
And that's a very misconception, I believe, when you quote unquote work for yourself. You hear yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like you have to do everything yourself. And at the beginning, yeah, it does feel like that. But I am 100% in agreement with you that when you seek somebody that's done it, learn from their lessons. Yeah, because I guarantee anything you're thinking or doing, they've done it already.
You know, a funny story, when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing at the studio, because my background was in science and I was a researcher. So all I did was sit behind a bench and pipette, right? Working with little test tubes. So I never talked to anyone. And so my first day, or the first week before going into the studio, I went to the bookstore. I bought all the books, like self-help books.
Yeah.
Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Brian Buffini, who's that major motivational speaker?
Tim Robbins?
Tim Robbins, right? Anthony Robbins. So I read all their books, listened to all their tapes, and they helped me a lot because I had no idea how to communicate, right? And so seeking mentors, go out there and not only reading all the books, listening to the tapes, but find someone to help you along the way. Someone in person. I think that would really help.
That's great. What about you, Stephen? What have you kind of wish you knew beforehand?
I wish I knew that fact beforehand. No, I also have a problem with asking for help, but it's never failed me when I did. So I would do a lot of research before taking a decision, making a decision. But I would also not let the research, I would not be stuck in analysis paralysis. Because if we waited for the perfect conditions, the perfect everything, it's never going to come.
Yeah.
So get started is really do your research, but then get started. Don't wait for all the chips to fall, all the cards to land in the right way. But start making positive action in the direction you want to go.
No, that's good too. Yeah, we tend to, a lot of us, even now in what we do, it's like we spend too much time researching or too much time thinking and not enough time to like, okay, there's a problem. Let's actively work on solving it, not just think about how to solve it. So I would probably say for me, it's the same answer as my training one. It's like you get into business for yourself. You're like, I'm in business for myself. Like, I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. As much as you feel like you know what you're doing, no, you don't. And know that you're going to run into a lot of problems and a lot of trial, a lot of just difficult situations, but that's okay. That's okay. The key is not to let them continuously happen. So, I mean, we all know this. I mean, it doesn't matter how great a product you're repping or how great your studio is, there's always something to improve on about it. So it doesn't matter how good you get at your training, there's always somebody that's doing it better. And that's where you need to, like Master Hoang was saying, you need to seek out those people that are doing better than you so you can learn from them. You don't necessarily have to be them, but you need to learn from them because they've already made all the mistakes you think you don't even know you're making. So
I think two important points here are you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Yes.
And then Stephen talked about experience, right? So we're making mistakes. So I really am strong about learning from your mistakes. So no mistake, no experience. No experience, no wisdom.
Yes.
Right? So you have to grow. And that's the only way you can do it, by making mistakes and then not repeating those mistakes. And learning from people's other mistakes. So you don't do them yourself and repeat them.
Yeah, mistakes are really only mistakes if you let them continuously happen. But I agree with you. If you don't make any mistakes, you don't have any experience.
Yeah.
And if you never have any, who would want to take it like wisdom advice from nobody that has experience? Like, I think we've talked about it multiple times. The example that I can automatically be like, okay, that makes the most sense to me, is probably one of the, like, I guess, crudest examples, but it's like if people are telling you not to do drugs, the person I would listen to would be a former drug addict. Why? Because they've already experienced why drugs are not good. It's like, I wouldn't listen to a dude that's never done drugs. Like, drugs are bad. I've heard they're really bad. Okay, well, how do you know? Well, I don't know. I've done a lot of research that says they're really bad. Well, okay. Well, I can do that too. But if someone was like, dude, I lost everything, drugs ruined my life, and this and that, I'd be like, holy crap. Like, they went through it. They know exactly why they're not good for you. It's the same thing with business or training or teaching. It's you learn from the people ahead of you because they've already done it. So, but no, those are, man, I've already learned quite a bit just from the 10 minutes we've been talking about it, but we have 2 other questions to get to.
Oh, wow.
All right. The next question is, how do you help people / students with impatience? Because I know we run into this all the time just in the training aspect of like they're impatient with their progress or they feel like they should be further along. And then with business, they feel like they should be better at what they're doing. Because we live in a society of instant.
Yeah.
Like now. And if anything takes longer than 2 days shipping, you're like, this is outrageous. Yeah, you know. So how have you been able to help with that impatience, like epidemic we're dealing with?
I think that's a great question. I always relate to my own experiences. Right? So the faster you grow, I always tell this to students, when you go fast, you crash. You go slow, you grow. Right? You must understand the process, just not the end result. And so people concentrate too much on the end game, the black belt itself. Right? But what are the lessons that you learn through getting a black belt? The black belt is just a product of what we do. It holds up your uniform. It's who you become because of that rank. And so the patience comes from understanding what you get from it. So that's how I relate patience with students because of my own impatience on things too.
Yeah.
So we always share the journey that you've gone through instead of just telling them to wait, you'll understand. People won't adapt to that. You must share your experiences so that they would really understand that process.
And I think that's probably a really hard time for newer instructors because they never want to appear vulnerable or that they struggled. I mean, you know this, you came from that old school background of like, nobody should know anything about you. Like we were taught here in Utah, it's like the order that students should see you should be God, then Sensei. You know,
the tiger behind the bamboo.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, don't let anybody know that you struggled with anything. Like you were the all perfect, all knowing instructor. And I think that hurt a lot of instructors in the long run because when they would run into impatience with students, you would hear that. Don't worry about it. You'll get over it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not helping me right now. But yet, if I knew that, like, no, I understand what you mean, man. Like, I went through the same thing. I'd be like, oh, God, it's not just me then. So, yeah, telling them your experience with it. And, yeah, I always love your quick sayings because they mean a lot and they make a lot of sense. Like, you go fast, you crash.
Yeah.
You go slow, you grow. It's so true. Yeah, anytime you slow down, you understand why you're doing what you're doing. But if you just go fast, you may be able to do it, but that doesn't mean you're good at it. So, what about you? How have you had, or what are some good things that you've been able to pick up on how to deal with impatience? Maybe even yourself or just...
Well, if I'm impatient, it's because I want something that I don't have, right? I'm wanting to get somewhere or be someone or have something that I don't have, and I'm tired of waiting. But I don't have it for a reason. I don't have it because either I haven't worked for it, I haven't, saved for it. There's something I can do that helps me on that path, that helps me to, and so instead of wanting that end goal, like Master Hoang, like you referred, focus on what's the next step. How do I get towards my goal? But don't focus on that. Focus on what I can do in the moment. So if it's my next rank, it's like, well, let's evaluate the forms. Let's evaluate the defense maneuvers. Do I know knife and club techniques? Those are all things I can work on now that helps me get towards the next rank.
Here's a quick life hack that I follow. It's called the 4 W's.
Okay.
So going with any goal or learning about patience or impatience is the 4 W's. Why do I want it? Okay. Or what do I want? Why do I want it? Why don't I have it? And what do I need to do to get it? Right? Consider that. What do you want? Why do you want it? Why don't I have it? And what do I need to do to get it? Right? Those 4 W's will really help you identify your goal and your journey of patience along the way of achieving your goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's another great lesson. If you're listening to this, you need to write that down. I almost pulled out my pen and was like, okay, there. But you've told me that multiple times, and it's always good to rehear it because it makes a lot of sense. And I agree with everything both of you guys are saying. And I also have to learn from my own experience. Anytime I don't have something, there's a reason why I don't have it now. Doesn't mean I will not obtain it, but there's a reason why I don't have it now. And I always equate it to like money, like, because money, everybody can understand money.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a reason why you don't have the money you have now, because you're going to misuse it. Okay. If like we just gave somebody, like, let's say a teenager, we gave a 16-year-old kid $1 million, it would probably be gone in months. Why? Because they don't know the value of it. They don't know how to handle it. And they never earned it, so they don't value it.
Very true.
So it's one of those things to where I always have to go back to, and it's the same thing with students and personal. If I don't have something, there's a reason why I don't have it right now. And I need to understand why I don't have it. It's that going back. It's going back to the W's.
Yeah.
Why don't I have it? Okay, probably because I would misuse it. It's like there's a reason why after a month we don't give people black belts. They will misuse the information they have, or they will not know how to use it.
I've always told students, I can teach anyone, honestly, to go from white to black belt within 6 months.
Yes.
You can. The material is there, but will they truly become a black belt? What does a black belt mean?
Exactly.
Right? It's who you become, not because you memorize all the katas, all the movements, all the techniques. It's who you become.
It's not how high you can kick or how hard you can punch. It's more of a character trait, not a physical trait.
Correct.
And that would probably be another thing I wish I knew before I trained, because everybody thinks, oh, because you're a black belt, you have to do all these physical things. To an extent, yes, that is correct. You do have to do certain physical things. But a true black belt or a true master, it's not about the physical things anymore. It's the mental things. It's the character. Are you building more people up than you're tearing down? Are you giving more than you're receiving? Because at the beginning, you receive more than you give because you don't have anything to give. Now you have all this valuable information to give. Are you giving it? Are you, well, I can't give it all because then why will they need me? No. It's you give everything because you can give everything.
It's hard to identify or to show character.
Yes.
That's very hard.
It is.
We're always the physical. Show me what you can do.
But yet, let me show you who I am. When you see somebody, you know right away they have or they don't have it.
Absolutely.
You know, you can almost sense it. I don't know how to explain it, but you can sense when you're around somebody, man, this is a good person.
Yeah.
And you can also sense when you're around somebody, okay, I'm not too sure about them. Honestly, dogs are the best indicator of good people.
Oh, yeah.
If you really think about it. And they know if a good dog is around or if a bad dog is around or if a good person is around or a bad person is around. I don't know how they do it. I would love to know how they do it, but you can always tell, oh, my dog went right up to him. Yeah. And then you start talking to him and you're like, this is a good person. And then your dog doesn't go up to somebody and they're like, kind of like veering back a little bit. And all of a sudden you go up to him and you're like, now I know why my dog didn't go up to him. That guy was a jerk.
It's a sense.
It's a sense. Yeah. So
people always say they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
So important.
And unfortunately, someone we know very, very well that gets a bad rap is Master Martin. A lot of people do not know how much that man truly cares about people.
Yes.
He's got a very hard exterior. He likes to joke. And it's funny, everybody that does not, and we talked about this yesterday, him and I privately, everybody's like, oh man, he seems like a really mean person, or he's very hard and he's like, he just seems like a jerk. Well, do you know him? No, he just looks that way. Well, then clearly you don't know him, because I don't know of any, but there's very few people that I know that care and give as much as that guy does. He truly, truly does. And if you don't believe me, then you clearly don't know that guy, and I don't want you around anyways. So he's one of the few people. You're also in that category. No, truly, nobody ever thinks that you're a mean or angry person, by the way. And if they do, there's a special place in hell for them. But you are one of those people that clearly care so much about the people around you. So much about the people around you. And that's where it's like, man, if all of us had a little bit more of that in our lives, how much different and better would the world be? Because right now, a lot of the things we're seeing is like division and conflict. But we're all different. We all deal with conflict. But how often do people come up to you and just be like, hey, man, I really appreciate you. I love you. Thanks for being in my life.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And, it's you first form habits and then habits form you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I just cared about people one day and I stopped. It's caring about people continuously.
Yes.
I think one of your words for New Year was consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again. And it becomes you.
Yes.
And I love helping people. I love being part of their lives.
We've talked about this in shows past, I believe. It's funny because we constantly give, and I love that, but people don't realize how much we get back from that.
Yes.
And we don't do it for
yes.
a reciprocation type thing,
mm-hmm.
because that's the wrong way of giving. But when you give for the sake of giving, I don't know what happens or what triggers in our brain, but I feel so much better being like, man, I gave everything I could to these people. And then, like, in return, they give back unintentionally as well.
Yeah. You nailed it. To give without the expectation of return.
Mm-hmm.
Simon Sinek said, give not to get, but give to inspire others to give.
Yes.
That's what motivates me to continue to give. So everyone around us to also continue to give. That's really a strong message.
Man, and again, if everybody improved 1% more on that, everybody, again, we would be living in a different world. And our mission is building better people. And that's really what motivates me nowadays. Is yes, obviously you do have to worry about maintaining your taking care of certain financial or physical obligations, but that's not the determining factor the longer you get into this.
If you think about it, when you give something to someone, neurochemically, psychologically, there's this emotion that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So when you give something, you either are happy about it, but it's difficult to regret the give, to be upset because you gave something to someone.
Yeah.
And so it's always this positive effect when you give something, right? Just neurochemically.
Yeah.
You can't feel bad about it. Well, some people can. But if you truly think about just the joy of giving, you'll get so much more in return.
Absolutely. Amen to that. So give. Just give. Do something nice for somebody. We have this conversation about Christmas. It's like, we don't view Christmas as an opportunity to give. Even though that's when most people do their giving. It's like, no, don't wait for one day to show somebody you care about them.
Can I share with you a personal story?
Absolutely.
So in the past, as I mentioned, I love to give, but I never liked to receive.
Mm-hmm.
So every time someone would give me something, think about your hands being open. It's easier to give when your hands are open. It's also easy to receive when your hands are open.
Yeah.
But your hands are closed. It's hard to give because you're tight, but it's also difficult to receive when you're closed or your hands are tight. So the personal story is, I always loved to give, but I never wanted to receive. But over time, I realized that if I don't allow people to give me something, I'm robbing them of their joy.
Yeah.
Because when I give, I love it so much. I'm so much more happy when I give. But personally, I didn't like to receive things until I realized that I'm preventing them from being happy themselves.
Wow.
And so then I started to receive. And the more I received, the more I gave back. So it made it easier for me.
That's true. Because I get weird when people give me stuff too.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I should get it.
Mhm.
And again, it's like I always try to be like, no, it's okay. No.
Yeah.
Like I completely understand, but I've never viewed it in that aspect before, and that's really changed my thinking on it just right now. Like I feel really good when I give people something.
Oh yeah.
But now when somebody's trying to give me something, I'm robbing them of that experience.
Think about compliments.
Yeah.
I used to feel very uncomfortable when someone would say, "Oh, you're so great. You're so joyful. You're such a great person. I appreciate you." And our natural reaction, being humble, is no.
Yeah.
That's not me. Don't worry about me. Accept it.
Yeah.
Receive the joy because you're allowing them to express how they feel about you. Don't deny it.
Yeah.
Same thing with giving.
I struggle with both of those.
Just say thank you.
Yeah. And now that's really changed my aspect. Anytime somebody does do that for me, I'm going to change just how I deal with it. Because I don't want to rob them of their joy of doing that. Because I wouldn't want somebody to rob me of my joy giving that to them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was really good. That was really good.
And if you need somewhere to start, give the show a like, subscribe,
Yes.
Share it with others.
Exactly.
Spread that joy.
Spread the joy. This is definitely one you definitely want to share. But all right, moving on to our third and final question. This one, you can honestly probably go deep into it, but it's meant to be a fun one. If you could have a fictional superhero as a friend, who would it be? So a superhero as a friend.
Superhero as a friend.
Who would you want as a superhero as a friend? This one's going to take a second to think about because you could go multiple different ways with it. But I thought this one would be a fun one to ask.
Why don't you start us off then?
Okay, I was thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. I've got a couple of different avenues you could take. Okay. So, like, if you wanted to just laugh, obviously you'd want Deadpool as your friend.
Clearly.
So, like, if you just wanted to joke around and just, like, not take anything serious, Deadpool's your guy. Okay? Like, if you wanted to, like, go somewhere really fast, Superman or the Flash is your friend.
Right.
Just be like, hey, I need to go here. Take me. Gone. Okay? I would probably, it's interesting because that I would think about this. I'd probably want Professor X as my friend.
Really?
Yeah. Because I always like to know what people are thinking, and he could tell me. So I'd be like, hey, what are they thinking? What did they say? And then he could let me know, and then I could either help with that or be like, okay, let's just leave. So I would probably want Professor. Plus, little side note, he's in a wheelchair. We can park in handicapped parking. We could find some anywhere.
You're taking this friendship to the extreme here.
He would have plenty of opportunities to give me stuff in return. And hopefully, by the mere presence of our friendship, that would be enough to give back. So I would go with Professor X as my friend.
Oh,
so
man. Wow. All right.
Who would you go with?
You know, I thought about it for about all the time you were talking.
Yeah, all of 20 seconds.
All the 20 seconds. So I'd have to go with Tony Stark. I'd have to go with Iron Man.
Oh, dang, that's a good one too.
Just because he's a genius, he's a billionaire, he's a playboy,
That'd
he's
be
a
like
philanthropist.
being friends with Elon Musk.
And it is kind of. But I also feel like, I don't know, I'd want to be able to contribute in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably end up being in his workshop a lot, working
there you go
with him, on things, on projects.
That's a good one. I didn't think about
I like
that.
doing that stuff.
Plus, like, you'd never have an endless supply of resources.
Plus, it's like,
like, hey, we need to do this. It's going to be $1 billion. Okay. Yep. All right. Wow. Who you got, sir?
Well, let's see. For me, I really never grew up with watching Marvel or any of that stuff, but just going back old school, when I grew up, I watched, this is going to be a little funny, but Mighty Mouse.
Yes.
Think about him, right? Small and powerful.
Yeah.
So messages are very huge there. And also Popeye. I am who I am. I am who I am.
Yes.
Okay, so those two funny characters.
That'd be cool. Yeah, Mighty Mouse was, ironically enough, a huge superhero.
Yes.
And very small, though. I remember the Mighty Mouse stuff. And, man, who doesn't like Popeye?
Yeah. He always got free burgers on Tuesday.
That's right.
Okay.
And he taught kids to eat their spinach. So if you have not looked up any of those, you should totally do that. Did you ever watch the Robin Williams Popeye movie?
I did not. Yeah.
It was pretty good. He actually does a very good job. I don't think Robin Williams did anything bad, to be honest with you. So, but let us know who your favorite fictional character would be, or fictional superhero. I thought those were all great answers. I didn't think of the Tony Stark one, or even Bruce Wayne. I don't know if I'd want to be Bruce Wayne's friend, though. He seems a little moody.
Kind of moody.
Yeah.
He's changed over time.
Yeah, exactly. But even though he's got like all the resources of Tony Stark, he doesn't seem very happy. So I definitely wouldn't want to hang around somebody that's not happy. But moving on to our next section, it's our fight scene. All right, this week it's going to be an interesting one because I don't think either one of these guys are known for their fighting abilities. Well, they're definitely not known for their fighting abilities. It's for their crime-solving abilities. We have Sherlock Holmes versus Inspector Gadget.
Whoa.
Yes. Now, the Sherlock Holmes I'm basing this on is the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes. So not the actual book.
The book.
So the one with where he fights.
The one. He does have some fighting ability, and apparently he actually really did. So we've got Sherlock Holmes versus Inspector Gadget. Round one will be in London. I can't remember the time. What was it? Do you know? Does anybody know when Sherlock Holmes was the thing back in London?
No idea.
Obviously, turn of the 18th century, I think.
Almost Industrial Revolution era.
Yeah. Okay, well, they're in that era. There's really no modern firearms there's flintlock pistols, I think. But so they're not going to carry any weapons, but they're in the London area. So we got Sherlock Holmes versus Inspector Gadget, round one in London.
Is it the movie Inspector Gadget or the cartoon? I really like the cartoon Inspector Gadget.
Cartoon Inspector Gadget.
All the fun devices that can
yes.
defend and protect in any situation. He was like the old school Mac MacGyver.
Yes.
So I would say Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget, round one. Well, if we're going in London, I would probably agree with you because of all of his gadgets. Yeah,
It's just new time period, new all of his.
And as smart as Sherlock Holmes was, I don't think he would know what to do with that. So I would tend to agree. I think if Sherlock Holmes got close to him, he might stand a chance, but those go-go gadget arms and his helicopter hat, I don't know if that would even be a thing. But yeah, I've got Inspector Gadget round one too.
Imagine him being having all those powers along with being like a James Bond.
Yeah.
Right? So he has a combination of both, right?
Yes.
Wit and gadgets.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing.
It's a tough argument to counter, but I think Inspector Gadget round one.
Yeah, very few times will we ever have someone lose home field advantage, but I think this is definitely one of those.
Yeah, just because of the time difference, because it was 19th century when
19th century
Sherlock Holmes was the detective, so they were still suffering from smallpox and things like that.
Yeah, he was probably frail in stature.
He was, he didn't have robotics.
Yeah. All right, so now we got round two in wherever Inspector Gadget's from. I don't even know where he's from. But whatever city Inspector Gadget's from in his time frame. I'm still got Inspector Gadget. Like, if Sherlock Holmes lost in his era, he sure isn't winning in Inspector Gadget's era. So
there we go.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you got Inspector Gadget round two.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this is where I will probably differ. Round three, in a cage, no gadgets, hand-to-hand fighting.
Well, he doesn't have arms then, so I don't think it's very fair.
Yeah, I got I don't have Inspector Gadget. I got Sherlock. Well, let's say he's got arms, but he can't extend them.
Right.
So
regular.
He just has
not go Gadget arms.
No, he's just got regular prosthetics. Yeah, I've got Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
The mind games from Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
The self-narrated fight scenes, like punch to the kidney.
Yeah, exactly. He maps it all out before the actual fight.
Yep.
I think it'd be funny if you can see he's thinking about what's happening and he just gets punched in the face.
Yeah.
That's that analysis by paralysis, like you talked about earlier. All right, well, I got Inspector Gadget 2-1. Sounds like everybody does too, so Inspector Gadget wins.
Yep.
So, and it's probably got one of the best theme songs ever. So, obviously, I'm a little biased towards the Ninja Turtles, but Inspector Gadget is a close second.
Okay.
So, all right, moving on to our joke of the week. This week's joke of the week, I think, is really funny. You may not. I don't care. If you don't like it, you don't have a sense of humor. But that's fine. It is, did you know that Mortal Kombat was based off of a Scandinavian church song? They called it a Finnish hymn. So, if you don't know, Mortal Kombat, one of the best sayings was finish him. But this is finish him.
All right.
Well,
I got one.
What's that?
This is for our friend here. Why don't scientists trust atoms?
Oh, wow.
Oh, I know.
Uh-oh.
Because they make up everything.
Oh, there
They
you
make
go.
up everything. Yes, exactly. But all right, let us know what your favorite joke is, and let us know in the comments. This week's shout-outs is, who do you got for a shout-out this week?
Well, I've been so impressed with everybody so far that has gone to All-Star Weekend, especially the students from South Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to shout them out. That's Finn, Ahmed, Braden, Ty, myself,
Raleigh,
Ollie. Can't forget Ollie.
Yeah.
Like, everyone there has shown up. They've been there. They've been present. They've been behaved.
Oh, good.
And, like, they've been actively asking questions. And, you know, your phrase, a thinking student is a growing student. And I've been so impressed with how they've been thinking and, like, just experimenting and trying out what was being taught. So I'm shouting everyone out.
Nice. So that's good to hear that we don't have to crack any skulls when they come back. Be like, I heard you were...
There's 2 days left. Things could change.
That's true. We got Ben coming to the snake test
There we go.
tonight. So Ben's a good kid. Ben will probably ask a ton of questions because he is one of these like overthinking young little men. And he genuinely asks them from a curiosity standpoint. But it's funny because he has his lesson today. And I'll have to tell him, be like, hey, we need to practice, Ben. Like,
No worries.
I will
No worries
answer
at
all
all.
your questions, but we need to do something. He's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And it's like, no, you're fine.
I'll just focus him on telling him that the questions are more important than the answers.
Yes.
That's it.
There you go. But is there anybody you would like to shout out this week or shout out on the show?
Thank you for that. I would first shout out to my family because I'm away from them.
Yes.
Crystal, Alex, and Jen. And Crystal's birthday is coming up here tomorrow. I will not be there, but I'll be home on Sunday. She's turning 23, which is pretty exciting. And also to the people of Utah and TRUMOTION. This community is incredibly wonderful. Every time I come out and visit, it's just unparalleled.
Yeah.
People are nice, generous, warm, welcoming, considerate, loving, caring, very, very open-armed. So I really appreciate being here every single time. And then you guys, absolutely. I love the opportunity to listen to your podcast and now to be a part of it. So shout out to everyone here and your podcast too. Thank you.
We'll definitely have you on as much as we can. You'll allow us to have you on. Yeah, I'd like to obviously shout out you for making the trek out here and your family.
Oh, thank you.
For thank you, family, for sharing him with us. And so your daughter's turning 23?
23.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's really cool. You guys got any special plans for when you get back, or?
She just likes to have it low key.
Yeah.
She thinks anything after 21 is downhill. There's no more big celebration, right? You don't celebrate at 25, some milestone in her mind. 30, 40.
Well, there is
maybe
such
50.
a thing as called the Dirty 30.
Okay.
So
It was definitely downhill.
yeah, my everything downhill was like 35. That's when like the warranty started to run out. Well, good for her. That's fantastic. Is she a student or?
She graduated college.
Okay.
And she's on the path to finding work right now. She does have an offer as a computer scientist engineer.
Okay.
So she is considering accepting that. If not, she's still looking for more opportunities before she signs the offer letter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Where did she go to UC San Diego as
she
well?
went to UC Riverside.
Okay.
In California.
Gotcha.
Another UC university.
Oh, did she live on campus? Obviously.
She
That's a trek.
lived on campus for 1 year and then had COVID. Not COVID herself, but COVID time. So she never had the experience of the dorms. And then she got into an apartment and then lived off site, lived at home for a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, she never had that experience of being in the dormitory
dorms.
with all the other students.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. They've got some good universities out there in California.
Yes.
So we're a little biased to ours here in Utah. Well, mainly one, the U. I mean, we have some BYU fans, so I'm not going to talk about the school down south. That's fine. But yeah, Utah, like coming from a science guy, Utah's a really big medical school, and we are very, very lucky to have it as a medical school because I do believe that here in Utah we have a really good network of hospitals and healthcare and all that stuff. So,
quick question for you guys. The people of Utah, what do you call individuals from Utah? Like in Los Angeles, they call them Angelinos. Utahns. Okay, I got it.
Weirdos. Everybody assumes Mormons. So be like, oh, you're a Mormon, right? Like, that's what they call Utahns, right? No, not everybody's Mormon, but majority of us are. So, no, Utahns.
Okay.
Yeah, Utonians.
I wanted to say it correctly.
You could honestly say whatever you wanted, and people would be like, okay, sure.
The you people.
The you people. You people. What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people?
That's great. But all right, moving on to our last segment, our final thoughts. Is there any, we've always obviously you've listened to the show, we always like to leave a final thought with making an impact. But now after our talk, I think we really want to kind of start making an emphasis on giving. Give to somebody today. And it doesn't have to be like physical or monetarily or possession wise, but like give yourself to somebody else. Give them the time, be present with them. Because I think for a lot of us, myself included, I need to every now and then like just kind of check myself and be like, I'm here, but am I present? Okay, no, I'm not. I'm thinking too much about something else down the road. Okay, I need to be present. Like, okay, hey, how are you? It's good to see you. I am glad you're here with me today. Give to people. Give them you. Give them your time. Give them your efforts. Give them your admiration. Tell them you care about them. You know, that's what I feel like I'm really going to start making more of an emphasis on is giving. Even though you tend to give unintentionally, but now I want to make sure I'm intentionally thinking about, okay, am I giving enough? Could I give more? Am I giving the right stuff? Because we could be giving, but not giving the right things. Does that make sense? So I definitely, for me personally, I want to start making an effort on being very conscious of giving more. Just giving more. Even if you're like, okay, I feel like I've given a lot, you can still give more. So, is there any kind of final thoughts you want to leave with everybody?
I think, with the new year, it's always learning or understanding the principle of growth. You can always grow and develop beyond your own expectations. So don't stop growing. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
It's infinite.
Yeah.
So continue to grow and don't give up and rely on individuals to help you reach the next level.
Yeah. Right. Any final thoughts from you, Stephen?
I'm going to echo both of you. I think making an impact is giving. It's growing. It's becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And when you give to somebody and when you develop more skills, you're able to just be a greater positive force in their life. So I think try to become that person's positive force in their life.
Yeah.
We have a lot of students who are still recovering from the loss of one of our students,
Yeah.
And we want to be there to help them. We want to help them in every aspect, and I can see being a positive force as a way, as anything that they really need. And I think it's working.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm definitely going to start, like what I learned a lot from you today with the receiving. Like, give humbly, receive graciously. Don't be afraid to receive. Because we love giving. And we know how it makes us feel giving. I don't want to rob somebody of their joy of giving. So receive graciously, give humbly, and just try to make the world a better place, build better people, be the strongest version of yourself, and keep on moving forward. But until next time, thank you for joining us, and make sure you like and share the show. Master Hoang, I appreciate you taking the time and passing on your wisdom and your, just the more and more I talk with you, I'm like, gosh, I miss, because we used to see each other at least once a month for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm definitely going to get back to that. So, but thank you for coming on out here with us, and hopefully we'll have you on the shore more often. And have a great week, everybody, and kick it with us next time.
Kick it with us next week. Bye, everyone.